Let me be clear right from the start. Respect is not something you ask for. It's not something you hope for. And it sure as hell isn't something you beg for. Respect is earned through the boundaries you enforce, the way you carry yourself, and the values you refuse to compromise on. I'm not here to tell you how to please men. I'm not here to tell you how to make them like you. I'm here to tell you how to make them respect you. And there's a difference. Because when a man respects you, he shows up differently. He speaks differently. He listens differently. And when he doesn't, when he tests those lines, you'll know exactly what to do. Respect isn't given to the loudest voice in the room. It's given to the person who knows their value without needing applause. And that comes down to one thing: boundaries. Not walls, not fear, not anger. Boundaries. The quiet power of saying, "You don't get to treat me that way." The discipline to walk away without warning. The courage to choose solitude over disrespect. And the grace to do it all without ever raising your voice. Today I'm going to share with you 5 boundaries that earn the kind of respect from men that can't be faked or forced. These aren't rules for a relationship. These are rules for yourself. And once you live by them, you don't just gain respect from others, you gain unshakable respect for yourself. Let's begin. You don't chase validation. You don't chase applause, attention, or acknowledgement. And when you stop chasing it, when you pull your energy back from constantly trying to be seen, heard, liked, you become magnetic. That's the paradox. The moment you stop needing to prove your worth is the moment others start noticing it. There's a difference between being confident and being performative. A woman who knows her worth doesn't need to announce it. She doesn't need to shout it from the rooftops. Her presence speaks before she does. And that's not about arrogance. It's about certainty. It's about knowing who you are without needing someone else to confirm it. When you operate from a place of self-worth, you stop engaging in the exhausting game of proving. You no longer need to convince someone you're enough. You don't overgive to earn a place in someone's life. You don't shrink to make someone else comfortable. You don't explain yourself repeatedly to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop giving discounts on yourself in the hopes that someone will see your value. Because the truth is, people don't respect desperation. They respect discipline. They respect stillness. They respect clarity. Men especially, whether consciously or unconsciously, are wired to recognize when a woman is chasing them energetically, emotionally, or mentally. And often the moment you begin to chase, you lose posture, you lose ground. Not because you aren't valuable, but because you've stepped out of alignment with your own value. There's power in silence, there's power in restraint, and there's massive power in not reacting when your ego wants to. Because self-worth isn't just about feeling good, it's about emotional discipline. It's about holding your line when someone pushes your boundaries. It's about walking away when something doesn't align, even if it's tempting, even if it's familiar, even if you think you might lose something. Because deep down, you know you're not actually losing. You're honoring yourself. There's a quiet kind of strength in a woman who knows she doesn't need to compete for attention. She doesn't need to over-explain why she deserves respect. She doesn't need to adjust herself to fit into places that were never built for her in the first place. And when she enters a room, she doesn't need to take up space loudly because her energy already does. Her energy tells you, "I know who I am, I know what I bring, I know what I deserve." And here's the truth. People treat you based on the standards you set for yourself. If you lower the bar to accommodate someone's comfort, you teach them that your worth is flexible, that it's negotiable, that it's conditional. And the moment your worth becomes conditional, it stops being respected. You may think that if you give more, try harder, show them how much you care, they'll finally see you. But chasing love, attention, or respect is often rooted in a wound. A belief that you have to earn what should be given freely. A belief that your value only exists if someone else acknowledges it. And that belief will keep you in cycles of overextending and under-receiving. But when you stop seeking external validation, you take your power back. You're no longer reliant on someone else to remind you that you matter. You start showing up differently. You start speaking less but with more impact. You stop tolerating the bare minimum. You begin to expect more. Not because you're entitled, but because you've done the work. You've done the inner audit. You've built your inner foundation. And now you don't need permission to hold your standards. Men respect women who don't chase. Not because they want to be pursued themselves, but because they recognize the strength it takes to stay rooted in self. They see a woman who isn't easily impressed, who isn't easily swayed, who won't bend her identity to match their desires. And that's rare. It's powerful. It forces a man to ask himself, am I ready to meet her where she is? Am I ready to rise to that level? And not every man will be, and that's okay. Because a woman with self-worth doesn't cling to what isn't meant for her. She doesn't beg, she doesn't plead, she doesn't try to convince someone to value her. She already does that for herself. She understands that rejection isn't a reflection of her value. It's redirection toward alignment, toward someone or something that doesn't require her to abandon herself to feel loved. Self-worth is the filter through which everything else flows. Your relationships, your career, your choices, your boundaries. When it's strong, everything else strengthens, and when it's weak, everything cracks. So don't look outward for confirmation. Don't ask others to define who you are. Stand up straight. Speak with clarity. Say no without guilt. Say yes without fear. Look people in the eye, not to intimidate them, but to show them you're not afraid to be seen. Own your value without apology. Because when you stop chasing validation, you start attracting respect. The real kind, the quiet kind. The kind that isn't based on your looks, your compliance, or your ability to please, but on your power, your stillness, your ability to remain rooted in your truth, even when it would be easier to fold. And that is the foundation of every boundary that follows. Emotional discipline is not about suppressing your feelings, it's about mastering them. It's about knowing when to speak, how to speak, and when to walk away in silence. It's the ability to stay grounded even when someone is trying to pull you into their chaos. And that's one of the most commanding forms of strength a woman can have. Because when you control your emotional energy, you control the entire dynamic of any room, conversation, or relationship you enter. We live in a world that romanticizes reactivity. We're told to speak our truth, to let it all out, to never stay quiet. But there's a difference between emotional honesty and emotional impulsiveness. One builds respect, the other builds regret. When you're easily rattled, easily offended, or easily triggered, you hand over your power to everyone around you. You become a puppet to other people's moods, reactions, and approval. But when you discipline your emotions, you stop living in response to others and start leading from within. Men notice this. They feel it. A woman who is emotionally grounded commands attention without ever demanding it. She doesn't need to argue her point over and over. She doesn't need to prove how right she is. She knows when to speak and when to let silence do the work. That kind of restraint, that kind of control, it's not weakness, it's power. Because it shows she's not driven by ego or insecurity, she's driven by purpose. Emotional discipline is knowing that not every provocation deserves a response. It's choosing to stay calm when someone is trying to get a rise out of you. It's knowing that yelling louder doesn't make your point stronger. And sometimes, the strongest move isn't clapping back, it's stepping back. Not out of fear, but out of confidence. Because you don't need to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't need to fix, defend, or rescue everyone who dumps their emotional baggage at your feet. That's not strength. That's self-abandonment disguised as kindness. You control the energy you allow. That means protecting your peace like it's your most valuable asset, because it is. Not everyone gets access to you. Not everyone deserves your time, your empathy, your emotional bandwidth. Emotional discipline is learning to discern who's genuinely seeking connection and who's trying to drain you. And you set the tone. If someone comes at you with disrespect, you don't escalate, you elevate, you rise above, and sometimes you remove yourself altogether. People will test you, especially when they sense you have something they don't. Stability. They'll push your buttons to see if you'll break. They'll bring drama to see if you'll engage, and every time you respond with calm, clear, controlled energy, you teach them something. You teach them that your inner world is not up for grabs. You teach them that you're not going to bleed just because they're hurting. You teach them that you lead yourself. And this doesn't mean you become cold. It doesn't mean you suppress your voice or pretend everything is fine when it's not. Emotional discipline doesn't erase your feelings. It refines how you express them. You don't react in the moment. You respond with intention. You don't lash out. You lead with clarity. You don't manipulate. You move with integrity. The truth is, many people are emotionally addicted to chaos. They create conflict because they don't know how to live in peace. And if you're not careful, they'll make you think it's your job to manage their dysfunction. It's not. Your job is to manage you, your reactions, your words, your energy. And the moment you master that, everything around you starts to shift. Men respect women who don't lose themselves in the heat of the moment. Women who don't let their emotions override their values. Women who don't need to be loud to be heard, because that kind of emotional strength creates safety. It builds trust. It makes people think twice before disrespecting you. Not out of fear, but out of recognition. This woman holds herself to a higher standard. And let's be honest, most of the time, it's not about what they did. It's about how you choose to respond. That's where your power is. You don't get to control who triggers you, but you always get to choose how you carry it. You don't always get to pick the storm, but you can choose whether you stand still or spin with it. When you walk into a space with emotional discipline, you instantly shift the atmosphere. You become the calm in the chaos, the clarity in the confusion. And people feel that. It's not just something they see, it's something they sense. It's a quiet, contained force that says, I am in charge of me. You don't get to dictate how I feel. And let's not forget, emotional discipline is freedom. Freedom from the roller coaster of other people's moods. Freedom from over-explaining. Freedom from regretting what you said in a moment of anger. It gives you the power to pause, to think, to choose. And in that space between trigger and response, that's where self-respect lives. That's where boundaries are born. That's where leadership begins. So no, you're not heartless. You're not detached. You're not too much. You're just clear. You've decided that your emotions are sacred, that your peace is precious, that not everyone gets access to your softest places. And the moment you make that decision, the game changes, not just in how men treat you, but in how you treat yourself. Because when you control the energy you allow, you don't just earn respect, you embody it. Your time and energy are not unlimited. They are not owed. They are not to be handed out freely to anyone who asks, demands, or expects them. They are a privilege earned through respect, mutuality, and alignment. And the moment you begin to treat them that way, the people around you do too. We are conditioned, especially as women, to be accessible, to be available, to be accommodating, to answer every message, every call, every request with urgency and a smile. We're taught that saying no is selfish, that protecting our space is rude, that putting ourselves first is something we need to explain. But the truth is, people will take as much of you as you are willing to give. And if you keep offering yourself to everyone, you'll end up with nothing left for yourself. Boundaries around your time and energy are not about being harsh. They're about being intentional. They say, I know what matters to me. I know what deserves my focus. And I'm not willing to sacrifice my mental health, peace, or purpose to entertain people who drain me. Because not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone has earned the right to be close to you. Access is a currency, and when you hand it out for free, it loses its value. Think about how you feel after certain conversations, certain encounters, certain relationships. Do you feel energized, or do you feel depleted? Do you feel supported, or do you feel used? The people you keep close should be people who add to your life, not subtract from it. If someone consistently leaves you feeling exhausted, confused, or unseen, it's a sign. It's not always about cutting them off, but it is about recalibrating how much access they get to you. And this includes people you care about, family, friends, coworkers, even romantic partners. Just because someone loves you or needs you doesn't mean they get to monopolize your energy. Your time is sacred. Your focus is sacred. And when you spend it on the wrong people or the wrong situations, you rob your future of everything you could have been building instead. There's a myth that setting boundaries makes you cold or distant. But boundaries don't push people away. They filter out the ones who were never supposed to be that close. The people who are aligned with your values will respect your boundaries. They will not only accept them, they'll appreciate them. Because boundaries show clarity, they show self-respect. They say, I know who I am, and I protect what matters to me. When you stop being available to everyone, you begin to attract better connections. You begin to prioritize relationships that are reciprocal. You stop spending hours explaining yourself to people who don't listen. You stop giving your time to conversations that go nowhere. You stop investing your energy into people who only show up when it's convenient for them. And suddenly, you have more capacity for your goals, your health, your creativity, your peace. Men, in particular, notice when a woman values her time. They notice when she's not constantly reachable, when she doesn't drop everything for every text or call, when she doesn't rearrange her schedule just to make him comfortable. That doesn't make her difficult. It makes her respected, because nothing commands attention like a woman who has things to do, a purpose to pursue, and the discipline to protect her priorities. And yes, that may intimidate some people. The ones who are used to unlimited access, the ones who benefited from your lack of boundaries, will push back. They'll call you selfish, they'll call you distant, they'll try to guilt you into returning to who you were, the version of you who overgave, overcommitted, overextended. But let them be uncomfortable, let them adjust. You're not here to be convenient, you're here to be whole. You don't need to apologize for having standards for your energy. You don't need to justify your schedule. You don't need to explain why you're unavailable to things that don't align with your growth. No is a full sentence. Silence is a boundary. And leaving messages unanswered, invitations declined, calls ignored. Those are not acts of cruelty. They are acts of self-respect. Protecting your energy is how you ensure that you're showing up fully for the things that actually matter. Your work, your relationships, your health, your purpose. You cannot give your best to the world if you are constantly being drained by people who only take. You cannot grow into the woman you're meant to be if you are always shrinking yourself to keep others comfortable. This is not about being busy for the sake of it. It's about being intentional. You are building something, whether it's a career, a legacy, a family, a stronger version of yourself. That requires focus. That requires boundaries. That requires being unavailable for anything that doesn't feed your vision. You're not here to prove you can do everything for everyone. You're here to live your life on purpose, to choose wisely, to give deeply, but only where it's deserved. And here's the truth. When you protect your time and energy, the right people rise to meet you. The ones who respect your space. The ones who don't need to be entertained 24/7. The ones who understand that love doesn't mean constant access, it means mutual respect. And in that space, the real connections grow. Stronger, deeper, healthier. So no, not everyone gets access. That's not cold, it's clarity. That's not rude, it's respect. That's not rejection, it's protection. You are not for everyone, and that's your power. Walking away from disrespect isn't about ego. It's not about punishing someone. It's not even about making a statement. It's about setting a standard and then living by it. Every time you allow disrespect, you teach people how to treat you. And every time you walk away from it, without drama, without explanation, you reinforce the most important message you can ever send. I respect myself more than I fear losing you. Respect isn't a luxury, it's a baseline. It's not something you earn by proving yourself or by performing perfectly. It's the bare minimum of how another person should treat you if they want to be in your life. Yet so many people, especially women, are taught to rationalize disrespect, to overlook the red flags, to accept the crumbs, to give second, third, fourth chances in the name of love, forgiveness, or understanding. But the truth is, disrespect tolerated is disrespect repeated. And the longer you stay in a space where you are being disrespected, the harder it becomes to recognize yourself. Because slowly your standards slip, your voice gets quieter, and your power starts to leak away. Disrespect doesn't always come loudly. Sometimes it's subtle. It shows up in dismissive tones, backhanded compliments, emotional neglect, or consistent inconsistency. It's the canceled plans without apology, the jokes at your expense, the way they ignore your needs but expect you to meet theirs. It's being told you're too sensitive when you speak up, or too difficult when you demand better. And if you're not careful, you'll start to internalize that behavior as normal. You'll start to think you're asking for too much when really you're asking for the bare minimum. The ability to walk away isn't about anger. It's about clarity. It's about knowing that no matter how much you care about someone, you will not abandon yourself to keep them. You don't yell, you don't beg, you don't try to prove your worth to someone who's already decided to overlook it. You simply leave. Quietly, calmly, completely. Because someone who truly respects you would never put you in a position to question whether they do. Men respect women who don't negotiate with disrespect. It draws a clear line. It says, this is who I am, and this is what I will not accept. That kind of boundary sets the tone for every interaction that follows. It filters out the people who only want you when you're easy, compliant, and convenient. And yes, it will trigger some people. The ones who are used to taking advantage of your kindness will call you cold. The ones who expected you to keep tolerating the bare minimum will say you've changed. Let them talk. You didn't come this far to stay small just to be liked. Walking away doesn't always mean slamming doors or burning bridges. It can be quiet, unapologetic, unemotional. Sometimes it looks like taking a step back, creating distance, reducing access. Sometimes it means cutting ties completely. What matters is that your actions reflect your standards. Because if you say you want respect but keep entertaining people who disrespect you, your words lose weight. Boundaries without consequences are just suggestions, and standards without action are just wishes. You don't have to explain your worth. You don't have to prove why you deserve to be treated well. You just have to show it by what you allow, what you entertain, and what you walk away from. Every time you remove yourself from a situation that doesn't honor your value, you build strength, you build trust in yourself, and that self-trust is what makes you unshakable. There's something incredibly powerful about a woman who knows when to stop talking and start walking, who no longer tries to make someone see her value, but instead goes where she's valued. That power isn't loud, it's steady. It's composed. It's the kind of energy that says, I'm not afraid to be alone. I'm afraid to stay in spaces that make me forget who I am. People will test your boundaries to see if they're real. They'll push just a little, speak just a little too sharply, ignore your needs just once to see what you'll do. And what you do in that moment sets the tone. Do you call it out? Do you pull back? Do you leave? Or do you let it slide because you're afraid of conflict or afraid to lose the connection? Those small moments matter more than you think, because disrespect usually starts small and it grows in the silence of your compliance. You don't owe anyone unlimited access to you. You don't owe anyone the benefit of the doubt after repeated harm. And you certainly don't owe anyone your presence after they've shown you they don't value it. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself consistency. You owe yourself relationships where you don't have to shrink, chase, or constantly explain why you deserve better. There's nothing more attractive, more powerful, more respected than a woman who can walk away without looking back. Not because she's heartless, but because she's whole. Because she knows that staying where she's not respected will cost her more than it will ever be worth. And that's the standard. That's the boundary. You walk away from disrespect every time. No excuses, no second guessing, no justifying their behavior. Just a firm, clear decision to protect your value at all costs, because if you don't, no one else will. Self-leadership is the foundation of every boundary you set, every standard you uphold, and every relationship you attract. It's the quiet discipline of holding yourself to the level you expect from others. It's not just about commanding respect. It's about deserving it through the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you treat others, and most importantly, the way you treat yourself. When you lead yourself well, you don't have to chase people to treat you right. You become the blueprint. This is where a lot of people miss the mark. They want love, but they don't love themselves in action. They want loyalty, but they're not loyal to their own boundaries. They want consistency from others while living in personal chaos. You cannot demand what you do not first demand of yourself. If you want high-quality relationships, high-respect environments, and high-standard energy, it starts with you. You are the first and final authority over your life. You set the tone. Self-leadership is waking up every day and asking, who do I want to be, and what does that version of me require? It's not waiting for motivation or permission or perfect conditions. It's doing what needs to be done even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. Because integrity is not a performance, it's a pattern, and people who move with integrity attract others who do the same. There is no shortcut to self-respect. You earn it in the quiet moments when you choose discipline over impulse, clarity over confusion, stillness over chaos. Self-leadership is saying no when it's easier to say yes. It's walking away when your heart wants to stay, but your standards say otherwise. It's having hard conversations with yourself about where you've been playing small, settling, or avoiding growth. And then it's doing the work to shift. Because the truth is, people treat you the way you treat you. If you ignore your needs, others will too. If you tolerate disrespect from yourself through negative self-talk, procrastination, or self-betrayal, others will reflect that energy right back to you. But when you show up for yourself, you raise the bar. When you set goals and follow through, you send the message, I take myself seriously, and the world begins to take you seriously too. Self-leadership also means taking full responsibility for your life. That doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything that's happened to you, but it does mean owning your response to it. You don't wait to be saved. You don't sit in victimhood. You stand up and decide, this is who I am, and this is how I lead myself through this. You stop waiting for someone to choose you, fix you, or show you the way. You realize, I am the way. There's incredible strength in a woman who leads herself. She doesn't need to announce it. She doesn't need to prove it. It shows. In the way she moves, in the way she protects her peace, in the way she refuses to compromise her standards for temporary validation. She isn't chasing a seat at someone else's table. She's building her own. And the people who deserve to be there will rise to meet her. Self-leadership also requires emotional maturity. You don't react impulsively. You don't let your feelings make your decisions. You know how to pause, reflect, and act from a grounded place. You take feedback without falling apart. You admit when you're wrong. You forgive yourself without making excuses. You don't avoid the hard things. You face them head on because you know growth is born in discomfort. And let's